like, how do we get to that? How do we bring it up to that stage?
Hi, welcome. We are the Scroll team from eSafety. This is...
Chloe?
I'm Dante.
And I'm Patience.
And we're here to talk about some stuff today. We're going to talk about some online hate and some other stuff and kind of talk about ways that we can deal with that in our experiences and all that kind of stuff. So we'll start with kind of the big question and like the big definition, but like, what does online hate mean to you?
I feel like online hate, it's really kind of any intentional negativity like that you're going to put out there, kind of with the intention to maybe bring other people down or just general negativity that you're going to put out on the internet with intentional.
Yeah, when I think of online hate, I'm thinking like sort of people trolling. I'm thinking of people just like ganging up on a person, but it could also be like individually, you know, someone just leaving a negative comment. Yeah, basically things like that, I guess.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking of as well. Like with online hate, it's normally, when you think about it, it can be schoolyard stuff, but it can also be like big internet stuff. Like normally it's like, whether it's on like a Twitter or Instagram, it's normally like one person does one thing and then it's like a whole big entire like thread of comments and people jumping in and everybody has an opinion in it. Like it becomes a whole big thing. But like, what would you say, like if you ever experienced online hate, or if you ever experienced bad comments or like negative energy, and then how have you kind of dealt with that and moved forward? Or even if you've seen other people experience it and you've been close to that, like how have you dealt with that and then kind of move forward?
I feel like personally I've never been around a lot of negative online spaces and online hate, and when I do see it, kind of like what you were saying before, when it's in those bigger platforms and when a lot of people kind of from all over just kind of get involved in it and it's not personal, I just stay away from it because I don't see the point in engaging with when it comes to random people, you know, when there's those really negative spaces on the internet. I personally don't feel the need to engage with it because I'm not associated with it, and I'll just look the other way, and it's like I don't need to bring that into my circle, so to speak. And if you do see something really negative or you see someone that you know that might be experiencing things, I think it's just about being aware and being there for someone to listen and to support them.
To be honest, I haven't experienced online hate, but I've seen it, and I've also seen some of my friends go through it, and also different people like reacting to it in different ways. And I think, like you were saying, I think probably one of the best ways is actually to talk to someone so you're not going through that sort of thing alone. But at the same time, like, I don't think that you should just deal with it and have to take that on. I think you should also report it or try and get the comment deleted on whatever platform that it's on. I just think that oftentimes people are getting hated for stuff that they're just being themselves.
So that's my thing as well. And like I've had, so I'm pretty self-expressive online, and I've had kind of negative comments and like been through the whole thing. But I think that where I come from is I'm kind of like, if your intentions are just to be positive and just to be yourself, and kind of like think that generally overall, like the best thing that you can do, especially when you're just trying to like be yourself online, is kind of not kind of fight them at their level, and is kind of just like take a step back. Almost a good strategy is to just text some of your friends and be like, hey, can you just report the comment? Like you don't necessarily have to address it. Just like report the comment, see if you can get it like deleted off your, like Instagram, you can delete stuff off your own pages. Like most places you can, if it's your content, you can kind of delete it off. And it's about like controlling that as much as possible. And I think that a lot of sites have like mute or like silence options as well, where you can like, you don't have to like do the big advertise, like block someone, because that can almost make it worse in some stages, because then it can carry out and it can become a whole thing. And like, but I think that options like muting someone or silencing someone can just give you like a peace of mind where you're not worrying about that. And I think the best advice is to try not to worry about that as much as possible. Like just put out what you need to put out, be positive about what you need to be positive about, but try not to, don't put stuff out thinking about what somebody else is going to think of it. Like you got to put stuff out thinking about why you're doing it for you, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I just have to say, I love a good mute. Like, because at the end of the day, like, you can mute someone, they won't know, and they're just like talking to themselves type of thing. And it's just like, you have that peace of mind. It's not like alerting anyone. And honestly, it's one of my like favorite options, but I think with, you know, the internet and more things happening online, I think a lot of services are sort of thinking about ways that they can protect people. So I think as a young person, keeping that in the back of your mind is also really helpful and useful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of bouncing back to what you said before, like as someone who is quite expressive online, like when you do get hate, and a lot of people say, oh, you know, it's just stuff online, it's just words, whatever. But it's like that takes a toll on you and that can build up. So it's like, how do you kind of, I don't know, like just put it like to the back of your mind and like stay positive, like you said, like that's a key part of kind of moving forward and remaining true to yourself online. Yeah. Is that kind of hard to do, like when you have those roadblocks?
It's like 100%. Like it's not easy to do, but it's always very rewarding when you kind of, because obviously like you'll get a hateful comment or you get something like that and you kind of get all this anger and you're like, no, like I could have this big like angry response and I could go back and do like a whole big thing. And then if you just kind of take a second, you collect your thoughts and you got to think like all of that stuff will resurface regardless of if like, just because your Instagram story expires after 24 hours does not mean it's gone forever. Like it all exists still. So I think that understanding that for yourself in the long run, it's kind of, it's better for you to just approach it from a place of positivity and like be like, look, so I can either choose to have a big 20 comment argument thread with this person, which eventually will lead to what?
Exactly.
Like,
what's the outcome?
Or you just take a second, you're like, okay, cool. You can let it sit, you can delete it, you have all these options that kind of lets you be able to like keep doing what you're doing. When you're speaking, you kind of want to think about like why you're saying what you're saying or like what's the intention behind it. And when you're going back at a comment, if you're going to try and do something online or even if you get a comment, you've got to think like, well, by going back at this, is my intention positive or is my intention all the drama and I just want to kind of like go back at them, which is like, and it's hard because you obviously you do want to do that, but obviously in the long term, you've got to think about what is better for you.
I also wanted to say we need to have fun online again. I think it is important, like you were saying, to be intentional about what you post or purposeful about it. But at the same time, like just creating online communities that are safe but fun and where you can express your identity, I think that's so important as well. And then you sort of have to also think like, I always wonder like why a hater would ever sort of bother to comment like a negative thing if someone's just simply just being themselves and having fun. Like why is it necessary to sort of drag another person down? Do you know what I mean?
You almost have to take it as like it's hard and obviously it's not a compliment. You've got to take it as you're taking a step in the correct direction, because if people are trying to pull you back in or they're trying to like kind of have a go at you, it means that you're stepping forward in the right part. It's almost like an indicator that you're doing something right. If you know that you're being positive in your attention and obviously you're not intentionally doing like something negative, like it's a step in the right direction because people are trying to like have a go and like pull you down kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's really sad when people are, you know, finding their way online and sharing, whether it's a part of themselves or getting engaged with communities, you know, who are like an extension of themselves, why people feel the need to bring that down. And I feel like, it does seem like it kind of comes down to like they have something that I don't and I need to get that out there.
Because I remember like Instagram enabled this thing where you could look at I like figured out the other day, you can like look at your comments by the oldest comments.
Yes.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Crazy. So I'm looking back through my old Instagram comments and I was like, damn, I was just like on like sports pages, like I would just be like hating on sports teams for no reason. I'm like, why was I so negative? Like for what? Like why was I being negative? But it's like, it's about that like instant gratification of like, cool, everyone loves to hate. Like you're like, oh, this team sucks, they lost. Oh my God, you get 6 likes in your comment. You're like, oh, this is the best. Like, and it's finding, it's all about, and I think especially for like young kids, everybody feels lost and everybody wants to try and find their place. And sometimes the easiest way for them to find their place is through like being negative about stuff. And then like other people are like, yeah, that sucks too. And you like bond over being like, which is, I think it's a place where it comes from as well. It always comes from trying to find a community and trying to find that. But if that can be done, if that can be channeled in kind of a more positive way, it's so much more beneficial in the long run.
Like if I was to say something really negative to someone in person, then you're going to be hit back with, you know, something that you don't want, whereas online you can just put it out there and it's like there's no consequences, so I can say and act however I want. But it's not true, because there is a person on the other side of that who is going to be receiving that. It's just an unfortunate, I don't know, new method of communication where people think that there are no consequences for your words or your actions. So I think that's a big reason why people feel like it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think that like maybe some people who hate think that there are no consequences, but at the same time, aside from you actually hurting the person that you're sort of, abusing online, also like other people can see that it might affect other people that see that maybe identify with the person that you're hating on. And then also like other employees can see that if you ever, people have to learn somewhere. So when we're young, we make mistakes, but once you learn from those mistakes and you want to move past, your online footprint, that'll follow you. That's something that people might be able to have access to. How many influencers do you see that get cancelled over like something they did when they were really young, maybe a hate comment they left or something they said about a particular minority group. And it's just like these things we see all the time. These things have so many real life consequences. So,
yeah, and I think especially like for kids that are younger than us, and maybe you're in year 8, year 9, year 10 in high school, and you kind of like you're just like running around, you're trying to find your place, you don't really know, like you're in the middle of growing up, just everything is confusing, you don't know what you want to do, and you're just trying to find a slot. But I think the best way to try and find that place is never, as much as it is easy to just be like, well, I can identify with all these people because we all hate this like one thing and it's like a whole thing and like da-da. You will find much stronger like friendships and much stronger bonds if you focus on what you love doing, and you focus on what like, oh, I love doing this and I love doing that, and that's kind of what I want to build the people around me around, like the stuff that I really, really love doing, instead of building the people around the only thing that you have in common is that you both don't like a person. It's like, well, it's like that's all well and good until like,
what next?
Yeah, like what next? Like, cool, we've done that for 6 months, great. Like, what's the next? Like,
and it's like online, there's something for everybody. Like you go through TikTok, you'll see so many niches. So I just think that there's a way to find a group of people that you like and can be positive around, without even having to like bond over hating, because there's just so many things online, so many communities, so many groups. So I just reckon that like if we all just try, and if we don't like something, just ignore it type of thing. Unless, of course, it's getting into the category of like it's negative, it's hurting other people. But if it's just something that you're like, oh, that was a little bit cringy, it's so easy to just scroll past it.
That's actually an interesting point, because I'm in a few like local community pages that are, for shared news about local events or small businesses and things like that. And just the amount of kind of back and forth, like negativity, like personal, like little attacks about people's opinions on things. I'm like, what's the point? Like, what is honestly, what is the end goal? Like, are you trying to just convince someone that what they said was, wrong, or that their opinions are wrong?
I think we have such a like a massive opportunity as a generation of young people to not be like, if you want to go this far, like think about any time that you're like getting angry online, think about like your mum's auntie's like Facebook comment arguing. Like you don't want to be that. Like that's not what you don't want to be that. Like every kid knows that's like, oh, like why? Like it's never that deep. Like that's what you look like. So don't do that.
Yeah, like
that's not
how do we get to that?
Like,
how do people get to that stage?
Like,
at least make it something positive that will actually help other people, or is aligned with something that you're interested in that'll actually do some good.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, like when people are online or, have access to that, it's like, oh yeah, like I need to get my opinion out there, like, and often when it's really, really negative.
And I think especially like this is a young guy thing as well. It might just be because it was my experience growing up through high school as well, but they'd be like, oh, I'm just joking. I'm like, oh.
Exactly.
Like where's the line between like, oh, I'm just joking, like where's the line between, oh, it's like just a joke and we're just joking, to like, no, this has like real effects on real people? Like where do you think that line is?
Aware of, like, read the room kind of thing. Like if you're entering a space that you have no familiarity with, or you don't know anything, and you make some joke or a criticism of something, it's like, it's probably not going to be very well received, because it's kind of what, like, again, I think it comes back to intentions, like what's the intention there. So I think it's about knowing the audience and thinking more ahead about how is this going to be received, rather than just acting out of impulse.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
So, I think it's all about empathy as well. Like
Yes.
if you're, especially if you're in a group or you're in like a group chat online or something like that, and there's always a line, but you've got to kind of think about it like, well, what if I was the other person and I'm like on the receiving end? Like, is this okay? Am I crossing a line? Like, and you're right with intention. Like, what is my intention? Is my intention everybody have a good time, or is my intention I'm trying to knock this person off a pedestal so I can rise up in this kind of, in like a pecking order of a group, which I know happens a lot.
Especially with younger people, because being online, it's like social currency. It's like if you have a lot of attention and you kind of, you're the one kind of, oh, you're a bit dicey, like, oh, a bit controversial almost. It's like that kind of gives you like brownie points almost. Yeah. And it can be a bit of a dangerous territory, because there's not really a lot of.
Well, it is that weird thing as well, where like where like social media is programmed to where conflict creates like interest. Like,
exactly.
Absolutely.
The more conflict and the more like, the less like smooth something is, the more people see it, the more it gets shared, the more people see it, the more conflict it creates, and it becomes this big spinning wrecking ball of like negative energy.
And people love tea, by the way.
Exactly. So like it becomes this like whole big thing, and then.
And in saying that also, like, if you're someone that's building a brand off negativity, you're gonna get hate back. People are gonna, what you're putting out can also draw in people of the same type that are willing to joke about anything, and just drag you down. So to me, it always comes back down to positivity. If you want to build a brand, you may as well just build it off of positivity and something that you like, that's productive, so that at least you can feel fulfilled that you're doing something that you actually like. And if you're receiving hate, then at least it's not, because you put negativity out. And then also the other thing is that when it comes to a joke, like, you also have to think about, like, who are you making the joke towards? Who are you making the joke at the expense of?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, if you're making a joke, at least make it funny. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But if you're just sort of dragging like a certain community down or a specific person down, and everyone's just like laughing at the person, you haven't really made like a funny joke. I just don't see how like that is sort of the peak of comedy.
Yeah.
I definitely think that the online landscape has definitely transformed comedy, especially for young people, and what we recognise as being funny. And it like, I see so much of it on TikTok, especially like dark humour. That's not actually, it's not actually dark. You're
you're just being
you're
racist.
Using that as an excuse to make fun of someone else. Like, that's not humour at all. And it's an interesting. Do you guys see a lot of that?
I think just online hate in general, and like that's kind of what I was talking about before, and especially on TikTok, that app is crazy. Like, it's like no context, 15-second clips of nothingness, and then the person who makes it, regardless of their intention, can get like positively reinforced by getting likes and shares and comments, to then make more, and it becomes this big like spiral wrecking ball of like hateful energy that becomes this like whole big thing. And I think the best thing I can ask you guys, like, what do you think, like, if someone has found themselves, or even like maybe like their best friend or someone like that has caught themselves accidentally in kind of like this, like they made one TikTok because they were angry about something, and then they got a bunch of likes, and now they've made like 3, and now it's like a whole thing. Like, what would you say to your friend to kind of like, not like snap them out, but like what would you say to kind of redirect their energy somewhere? Or what could you do to help them?
I'd probably just like say that maybe check what you're making kind of aligns with your values, and if it's not, then it's probably time to walk away, switch it up. You can all, take things down if you're not happy with something that you've put out there. Yeah.
Is like the likes really worth like a real life person's emotions? Yeah. Like, that's pretty much what I would say to them, because I don't know, I think sometimes you can get lost in the sauce. You can get like the momentum of getting likes, but at the end of the day, you have to take a step back and realise that once you put your phone down, you're going back into the real world.
Interesting point. But I think that, it's a lot of like, you've just got to be you've got to have like a lot of open, and it's not to say that it's easy as well. Like sometimes it's hard, especially if your friends are like doing crazy stuff and you kind of take a step back and you're like, whoa, like somehow I've been like, like one day you just wait and you're like, oh, hold on, like there's a lot going on here. Like I didn't sign up for all of this, but like, I think that it shows a lot of character if you can kind of, and obviously not like, obviously it's harder to just be like, hey, just tell your friend to shut up. Like it's not gonna, like, that's not gonna run. Like
talking to someone else is so important, but also like using the tools, like I was saying at the start, using the tools and resources that like the apps have given us to be able to report something or to be able to mute someone just so that you can have peace of mind and continue doing what you're doing. And also I think like if it's getting really, really out of hand and it's been 48 hours, it's been a prolonged amount of time and you want to take it further, then eSafety is pretty much the way to go because they can really help you, give you advice, but also take things down if that is, you know, what it has to escalate to.
And I think it's something you can talk about with a trusted adult as well, whether it's a parent or a guardian or even like an older sibling, if you've got an older sibling or like an older friend at school or a teacher or someone like that, is just have that discussion about kind of what your options are. And then it comes to that checklist of cool, what are going to be cool? Have I reported to the platform? Yes. Has it been taken down or has anything happened? You've given it, 3-5 days. Nothing's happened. What are the options now? Well, you can take it to eSafety and they can give you a bunch of information on there about kind of what the next steps are to do with that kind of stuff.
Online hate is more about the other person and how they're feeling, a reflection of, who they are, than it is about you or the person that's getting hated on.
I think that a lot of online hate in young males specifically, and this is coming from like people that I've dealt with in high school and kind of the groups that I was in when I was early ages of high school, is that a lot of young males kind of, it's like kind of misogynistic tendencies and they tend to take out a lot of their anger. Like if they're like with a girl, they're like dating a girl in year 7, they're talking to someone and they get rejected or maybe like it doesn't go the way they hope, they tend to take that out on like women as a whole online, like very aggressively and very like outspokenly, just like with no holds barred. And I think that it comes from that place of it says a lot more about them than it does about like you as a woman or someone that's like getting that hate. But I think it's also about holding your friends accountable as well. And like there's been friends groups that I've been in, especially when I was younger in year 7, 8, 13, 14, where that stuff's been happening. And it's like I've always been like overwhelmed because in your heart that's not okay, but you're like, I don't even know like where to start. Like how do I even bring it up? And I think it comes from a place of like you just need to, even if you don't know how to bring it up or you don't know, like maybe if you speak to again like an older sibling or a teacher or somebody, like it doesn't necessarily have to be your parents, it could be your parents, but just kind of somebody that will listen and somebody that will like take in your worry, even if you're just worried about somebody else or you're worried about like what your friends are doing and that's not okay, talk to somebody and they can maybe help you listen and help give some kind of action points for you that you can kind of go through and just to kind of help like move the situation along. But it's generally, and especially as like a woman that's getting hate from like a young man, it's generally like it comes from a place of very like feeling like the only way they can get their feelings across is by being mean and hurtful and like aggressive and like instead of being sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's really challenging and confusing and a bit scary. Like probably for boys and for girls, like when guys get rejected and they just switch up so quickly and that, interest then turns to hate and turns to spitefulness. And for other boys to see that kind of behaviour modelled by their friends, like, oh, is that how I should talk to other girls or other people as well? And then for people on the receiving end of that hate, it's confusing because it's like, oh, you were interested, but I said no. And now I'm like, my choice is being questioned. And it's like, I'm not allowed to, to disagree, to say no, to put up a boundary. And it's really confusing for young people when those, boundaries are put up and then that's met with spitefulness or hate or whatever. I think it's really toxic and it's really scary to navigate. So I think again it goes back to talking to someone that you trust, and and I think for a lot of young people it's often friends, like your close friends. If something bad happens, I know when I was about 14, and dating was pretty new, and I went to an all-girls school as well, so very different dynamic. So you don't really learn how to talk to boys or anything like that. So it's very different. And I remember this guy, I don't know how we met, but he started messaging me and I thought he was really lovely. And then out of nowhere, he just started sending me these really inappropriate jokes that weren't jokes. And it just made me feel so uncomfortable. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm 14. I don't know. Is this normal? Is this part of becoming an adult? Is this what dating is like? Is this what relationships are like? And I remember just feeling so confused and pretty scared, because I thought, is this normal? Because I don't think this is, but this is all that I'm seeing and that's only my experience. And so thankfully I was, in a good enough space to just be like, no, like I'm just going to, mute that. I'm not going to engage in that, and never spoke to him again. Thankfully, because we didn't run in the same circle. But yeah, that first kind of interaction with dating, it can be a bit scary online, because you don't know how to respond to those really intense kind of comments. I don't know if you guys have experienced anything like that when you were younger.
Well, I was just going to say, based on what you said, like it's really interesting that, from a woman's perspective, I feel like it's kind of normalised that maybe if you reject a guy, you're going to get like, they're just going to start like insulting you or whatever. And like rejection hurts, like we can admit that. But it's like, it was interesting to hear your perspective, because, I feel like at the moment there's this sort of climate, sort of conversation, men are trash sort of thing. But you as a guy, and you like growing up, you had this feeling in your heart that it wasn't the right thing to do, but maybe you didn't feel like you had the support to like step up to other guys that were behaving that way. So to know that there are guys that actually want to sort of step up and not be a part of that culture, I think it's actually really positive. And I think if more guys can actually discuss, how to sort of behave when you get rejected or when things like that happen, I think that'll be better for, everybody when it comes to dating and comes to maybe on the online hate that can come out of that.
It's such an interesting conversation, and especially I think in groups of like young males, it's like it's such like a mob mentality thing that it's like none of those guys think, when they're acting like that, especially like year 8, year 9, 14, 15, none of them, if they were isolated in a room, would ever speak like that or would ever talk like that. But they're not, and again, it comes back to purpose and speaking with purpose. They're not talking from what they feel. They're talking from what they feel like will be accepted in their group of boys.
Yeah.
So they're not actually speaking about what they think. They're in the back of their mind, the first thing they're thinking of is how will my friend group react to what I am saying right now if they saw it.
Yeah.
And because like guys tend to grow up in this culture where it's like, and this is like generational, like taught from their father, who taught from their father, where it's like, boys don't cry, don't be sad, etc., etc. They're like, oh, all my friend group's going to think that I'm weak, and I'm going to go down the pecking order in this friend group that I have because I was sad that a girl rejected me. So instead, I'm going to be angry and mean, and that is then looked at as like traditionally masculine things, which then makes you like I won the argument, like.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's more about like, you will find, especially like as a young guy, my thing is like, don't take action based on what you think your guy friends will think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Take action based on what you believe in, right? And it becomes one of those things too where you may get alienated from a group very easily. They might be like, oh, but in 2 or 3 years, they will come back, and all of those guys, whether they learn that lesson later than you or earlier than you, they'll all learn it at some point, and they will come back to you and they will say, you were right. Like, it will always happen. You've got to isolate yourself, kind of like, and if that's the way it has to go, it's the way it has to go. But in the long run, they will also learn that lesson as well. It might take them a little bit longer, and then they'll come back and they'll be like, oh, actually, I was an idiot. I was a dumb kid, and like, you know, and I shouldn't have acted that way, and you were right in what you did 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. But I think it's also like really important to realize that, like, yes, people all learn at their own pace, and if you say something, you know, that hurts someone, you know, apologize, of course, and just try and sort of move on and try and learn and grow from that. I don't think that, like, once you've done something bad, you should just keep on doing things bad, because that's kind of what people think of you. There's always a chance to sort of step up.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, between the time that you don't know something and then you learn it, the person that you've been giving online hate to potentially, like, there's multiple people that you could hurt. So just don't just do something, basically is what I'm trying to say. Don't just do something because everyone is doing it and you think, oh, I can learn later. Try to, you know, do the best you can online now, I think. And it all starts from, you know, now, the present moment.
That's my thing, like, and it's hard, and it's like, you feel like there's big expectations, and we talked about like digital footprint and all this kind of like scary verbiage where it's like, oh, I can make one wrong move, my life is over, and cancel culture, all this stuff. And it's like, you at the end of the day, like, you are going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, no question, like, you will mess up online 100%, but it's not about like when you mess up, it's about what you do after that and how you kind of, that's where like the character check comes in, and that's where it kind of comes into character. Okay, cool. I've done that. Okay, cool. I understand now that's wrong. Okay, how am I going to act now? Am I going to go and apologize? Am I going to go and like speak? Like, what do you learn from that? It's all about kind of growing and moving forward. Like, you're not done for life, but it's about how you can learn from that experience, grow, move forward. Whether you need to apologize to people, whether you need to even use your experience in your friends and be like, hey, I've already made this mistake. You guys don't have to make it as well.
Exactly.
Like, this didn't end well, and you can kind of be a leader and be a teacher. Amongst your peers as well, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that can be something that's really hard for young people as well, because like I was saying before, like when a lot of this kind of negative behaviour is modelled by your friends or other people at school or work or whatever, it's really hard to be the one to kind of like divert from the crowd and be the one who's doing something different, because that just kind of puts you in a really vulnerable position for them to come at you, even though you're like wanting to do the right thing. So it's really tricky to kind of manage, but I definitely think it comes down to just being really aware and making sure that what you're putting out there and the people that you surround yourself with align with your values. I think that's really important.
So yeah, and I think that this is a thing that I thought about when I was younger as well, as it was like, and it was when I was kind of transitioning from friend group to friend group in high school, and I was kind of like, well, the more, and this can help if you're getting online hate, that's like the more kind of like negative energy or people that you get that are trying to bring you down, that you kind of don't want to be like their values don't align with your values. If you're getting negative energy from them, it's actually a key indicator that you're moving in the correct direction, because you're moving away from that. And the more that you move away from that, the more they try and bring you back. You're like, oh, this is how I know that I'm taking steps in the correct direction, because they're trying to kind of pull me back to where it should be. Whereas if like you're kind of cruising through and like no one's really said anything and you don't really know where you're going, and the people around you, you're like, I know this behavior's not okay, but like I'm just kind of like floating in the wind, which is like an easy spot to be, and it's hard to kind of break out of that. But once you do, like, it will come with a little bit of like bite back, but you've got to take that as an indicator that you've like made a good decision to kind of break away from that at the end of the day.